Good evening. Miss Claudine, thank you for being here again. Bob, it's always a pleasure. Miss Kitty, thank you. And now, on to our keynote speaker for the evening. Burton M Cohen received his law degree from the University of Miami in 1948 and began a career in Las Vegas hotel and casino industry in the 1960s. It is a distinguished career that has spanned nearly 40 years. Mr. Cohen's earliest accomplishments include major roles in the building, opening, and staffing of the Frontier Hotel and Circus. Mr. Cohen later served as Executive Vice President of the Flamingo Hotel Casino. After the Hilton Corporation acquired the Flamingo Hotel in 1971, Mr. Cohen led the new operation as its president. In 1973, Caesars World hired Mr. Cohen to run the Thunderbird Hotel during the planning and development of what would have been the largest hotel in Las Vegas. In 1977, Mr. Cohen moved to Caesars Palace as a vice president and member of the board of directors. In 1978, Mr. Cohen became president and general manager. 1978, Mr. Cohen became president and general manager of the Desert Inn and Country Club under the Suma Corporation. In 1986, he became president and chief operating officer of the Dunes Hotel and Country Club until the hotel was sold in 1987. Mr. Cohen then returned to the Desert Inn and Country Club as its president and chief executive officer for Kurt Kerkorian, and stayed on as president and managing director when Sheraton Corporation acquired the property in 1993. Mr. Cohen retired from active hotel casino management in 1995 and has since done consulting work in the hotel and gaming industries. He was elected to the American Gaming Association Hall of Fame in 1995. In 2002, he was presented with Casino Journal's Lifetime Achievement Award. He is here tonight as our keynote speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Burton M. Cohen.
It's obvious by that resume that I was running out of hotels. The only thing left was State Line, and I decided to retire then. We're going to have one more drawing that's not on the schedule, and it's just for the women. The winner of this gets to spend one night with me. The loser has to spend 2 nights with me. So obviously, that's a drawing that everybody wants to win. I don't have a prepared speech. I just wrote some notes down, and then we'll leave it open for some questions. I like the name, the Casino Chip Gaming Token Collector Club. I had the opportunity, Jim took me through it. It's mind-boggling. When I was younger, I knew a few women that collected casino chips. I don't think they were members of your club. As a testimonial to my managerial ability, practically every hotel that I've run has been blown up. Let me just give you a little history about me. I was raised in South Florida, practiced law there for 16 years, saw the error of my ways, and as a young man growing up, illegal gambling was prevalent through South Florida. We had some of the casinos that initially would have made some of these casinos look like second fiddle. The Royal Palm Casino was like a movie set. The customer could come there by speedboat or by chauffeur-driven limousine. The stars that performed in there were the stars at the time: Harry Richmond, Abe Lyman, Martha Ray, the Sunny Isles Casino, the Colonial Inn up in Hallandale. These casinos were just hard to believe. They were all illegal, but they were honest. The customer got an honest game. And growing up in that environment, I was kind of exposed to it. Every hotel in its cabana club at a bookmaker. Across the street from our high school, there was a bookie parlor. And growing up there, delivering the Miami Herald and most of those hotels that are now the Inn in South Beach, all of these gamblers knew me, and I was kind of like a mascot. Never paid for lunch. I'll never forget, we had a principal by the name of Sidney Ellison. Sidney wore a houndstooth jacket, black and white shoes, had a racing form in his pocket. And being the smart ass that I am, I would stop Mr. Ellison on a hall. I'd say, Mr. Ellison, he's, yes, Burton. I said, who do you like in the fourth in Hialeah? This is the principal. Instead of hitting me, he'd say, well, Burton, I think. And now he's giving me all of this information about horses. In those days, we had a money game out in the boondocks. I don't know whether any of you have ever seen a money game and how it was dealt. But it's the most fascinating. That's before chips. They didn't use chips. The dealers had the money wrapped around their fingers. Claudine, at one time, dealt a money game either in Dallas or in Houston. And to watch these dealers deal a money game, when they'd count out the money like that, was just phenomenal. I'm about this tall. I was like a mascot. Sometimes when this would come out like that, there wouldn't be any money in it, but the player didn't know the difference. There is no mystique in running a casino. If you just envision a bank, a casino is a bank. The dealers are the wickets, the windows of a bank. And each dealer starts off with a par bank. And when he gets too many wins, he sends a credit to the cage. If he gets too many customers beating him, he asks for a fill from the cage. We have a collection department, just like a bank. We have a credit department, just like a bank. We balance our casino out for 3 shifts, not just one. So a casino is a lot like a bank. No mystique to it. It's just good business. And in the old days, they used to have markers. A marker, most of the time, was built on something called flash paper. Flash paper is a piece of paper, if you put a cigarette to it, it blows up, disappears. And that was done because a lot of the times you didn't know when the law was going to visit you. So they would get rid of these markers. As time evolved, we now have a system of markers that are now a negotiable instrument. One of the toughest fights we have, which I participated in, was before the legislature, to get the legislature to make the collection of a gambling debt in the state of Nevada legal. Until about 10, 15 years ago, it was not a legally collected item. Here's the only state that gambling was legal, and we could not sue you if you didn't pay your debt. And the fight we had was with the old-time gamblers. Oh, you're going to ruin it. Gambling is a debt of honor. You don't want to start with lawsuits. Oh, geez, we'll lose our customers and everything else. That has not happened. Gambling debt is a debt of honor. We actually have people who have died that have left in their will that please pay Caesar's Palace the marker that I owe them. In the old days, to get a comp, you really had to be a high roller. And you were identified by the casino. Today, with the computers, the casino knows when you go to the bathroom. The casino knows how much you play, what type of caliber, how many hands you played, and they actually have an earning schedule, earn particular comps. I think we lost something when that occurred because the customer a lot of times is playing to earn comps instead of playing to gamble. As time went by, I came here to build the Frontier Hotel. I knew nothing about gaming. When I say nothing, I had was on the other side of the table, but running a casino. Little pieces of straw were dropping out of my hair. That's how square I was. My job was to get the hotel, the Frontier Hotel, open, staffed, qualified, and etc. And I thought juice was something that came from an orange, you know, coming from Florida, juice. And little did I know, a lot of the employees would put their arms around me as we walked around. I said, geez, this is the friendliest goddamn town I ever saw in my life. Little did I know that the word was going out, don't mess with that guy. He's juiced in with Cohen, and you don't want to mess with him. To this day, nobody can touch me. You can talk to me, but don't put your arm around me. We worked very hard to get the Frontier open. And unfortunately, when we turned that big sign on that's out there now, Mr. Hughes was upstairs, and the reflection of the sign disturbed him. We had an offer that came in from his most handsome and eloquent messenger, Mr. Mayhew, that Mr. Hughes wanted to buy the Frontier Hotel. Well, we had worked our ass off, to be frank, and we didn't want to sell it. And in those days, when you opened up a new casino, you got a courtesy laydown from all of the owners in town. I mean, it was closed to the public, black tie affair. It was really something. And to watch this game, and every son of a bitch that came in beat us. I mean, and we didn't have too much of a bankroll to start off with, because the people that I worked for had a champagne appetite with a beer income, and the offer came again from Mr. Hughes. And I had a rooting interest in the Frontier Hotel. And those people decided to sell. So Mr. Hughes' organization moved me to the Desert Inn, and the man from the Desert Inn to the Frontier. That really, I loved the Frontier, and that disturbed me. And I'll never forget, I went to see Bob. Now, Bob in those days was a great big strapping man. I was so hot. He lived in the dollhouse in the back. The dollhouse started out at the Desert Inn, of where the VIP customers could leave their children while they were here, and they had nurses and so on to take care of them. And over the years, as different owners came in, they used the dollhouse as their place of residence, and it grew. It became a big property. I had the pleasure of living there many years. So I went to see Bob. You could have fried eggs on me. And it had a sunken living room. And I walked into Bob, and he says, "Hi, Bert." I said, "Don't you come up here." And I'm looking him in the eye now because he is sunken. I said, "I'm going to knock you right on your ass." He says, "You're going to do what, Burton?" I says, "I'm hot. You took me from the Frontier and took that nice gentleman and put him over there," who turned out to be a thief, by the way. Right, Bob? And he says, "Burton, I didn't have anything to do with that." He says that Mr. Hughes' procedure. Did I ever talk to Mr. Hughes? Did I ever see Mr. Hughes? No. I got a call one morning about 2 o'clock in the morning. I was married at that time to a very young, nice young lady who was subsequently, we got a divorce, and I got the canceled checks to prove it. And this voice, I don't know who it was, started off by saying to me, "Are you going to fire the son of a bitch, or am I?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Your food and beverage director, Steve Ertis." I says, "What did he do?" Well, it turned out that Mr. Hughes liked milk, and he liked it in these little half pints. He had one waiter, and instead of bringing up his milk in the half pints one night, the milk dispenser, which was used for the employees, were closer, So he went there and put a piece of saran wrap on top of it and take to Mr. Hughes. And I guess he went into orbit. This conversation lasted close to 3 hours. My wife was bringing me water. The voice says to me, "You are a stubborn bastard, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, I am. And I'm not going to fire Steve Erdis." And I didn't fire Steve Erdis. The other Hughes story, he was a creature of habit. And this story has been bandied about, but it happens to be true. Up on his suites were lined, he could walk the entire length of the top of the Desert Inn. And there were televisions set lined up in sequence. And he loved the movies on television. In fact, he bought Channel 8 so he could keep it going 24 hours a day with movies. And he'd get a pint of ice cream, and he'd walk that length of the top of the Desert Inn watching and eating ice cream. And he was a creature of habit. Let's just say, and I'm just making up the brand that he liked, Fudge Ripple. And I get a call from Steve Erdis one day, and I says, "You know, we're out of Fudge Ripple." I said, "Oh, my God. Call Baskin and Robbins and have them fly over Fudge Ripple right away." He says, "I did call." He said, "But they'll only make it, they're not making it anymore, they'll only make it with 200 gallons of ice cream." I said, "Get it." So we had 200 gallons of Fudge Ripple at the Frontier Hotel. The next day, Mr. Hughes says, "I think I want pistachio." I think to the day that the Desert Inn was sold, there was Fudge Ripple in the freezer. Gospel truth. You know, I was president of the Resort Association at the time that Atlantic City was looking to start gambling, and they were having an election. And I never forget, I asked, there are all the owners of the hotels, and the Resort Association at that time did most of the lobbying up in the legislature, as well as negotiating an industry-wide labor contract. The theory being, which was a good theory, that if we all had the same contract, the union couldn't pick us off one at a time. Not anti-union, but that was the facts of life. And as we negotiated these contracts, it became evident that we were having some problems. The labor contracts in those days were, as I said, industry-wise, and nobody thought that we would take a strike. And it came to a strike. In fact, they blew out the back of my car. When I say they, I don't know which union. I don't think I was loved by any of them at the time. And we actually had department heads, dealers, owners, making up beds, cooking in the kitchen, serving the food, and we actually weathered any labor strike that occurred. And when I was president of the Resort Association, I said to the owners that were around me, and the only thing they could agree upon, because I would start each meeting and say, "Let's all look at our watches and see what time it is. Maybe we can agree on that." I said, "I want to get some street money, and I think with some street money we can beat the election in Atlantic City." You see, I was naive. I was always against monopolies unless I owned a piece of one. And we had a monopoly, and I didn't want to let it escape. Little did I know that as I'm giving this heartfelt speech to these people, that most of them were out there getting options on land in Atlantic City so that they could go up there and spread their particular properties out. If we'd won that, I don't think we would have had the proliferation of gambling that we have now. Of course, we have it in every Indian casino, and I blame that on General Custer. If General Custer had won at Little Bighorn, we wouldn't have had any of these Indian casinos. As gaming was illegal around the country, there was a man that came along, a United States senator who was running for president by the name of Estes Kefauver. Instead of having a statute for General Fremont downtown, we should have here in Las Vegas a statue for Estes Kefauver, because Kefauver closed all of the illegal gambling, including Miami, all over the country. And these gamblers, these are the ones that knew how to run a casino. I knew what I had to do up here, but I didn't know how to deal a game. And these gamblers, together with their money and their venture capital, came to Las Vegas. And that gave us a great labor pool. It gave us fresh capital, together with the commitments from the Teamsters Union, which built some of the best hotels you have here. And every one of those loans have been paid off in full. A statue to Estes Kefauver would be in order. The size of the hotels that you see today came about because we operated before like a typical triangle. We had this broad base of expense supporting a small number of rooms. We had the casino, security, entertainment, advertising, PR, all of that stuff supporting a small number of rooms. Eventually, these owners got wise, and that turned like this, because that base can now support a large number of rooms. And you're spreading that base out over a number of rooms to where you can get a better bang for your buck. Today, the majority of the revenue comes from rooms, food, beverage, and entertainment. Something like 52% comes from those avenues. The odds on a crap table have never changed. Oh, you'll have some that will allow you to bet more than times odds in the back, but basically it's the same. So I'm often asked, do I like what's happened today against the old time? Well, of course I like the old time. Eggs were 25 cents a dozen. Gas was 35 cents a gallon. You got to know every one of your customers. I'll never forget, the Frontier was under construction. So I used to hit early at the time at the Silver Slipper for breakfast. And I walked in one day, and there's Shelby Williams. He looked like a truck had hit him. He'd been up all night. I said, "What's the problem, Shelby?" He says, "You see that Texan over there?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "That son of a bitch has got me beat out of $10,000, and I'm not going home until I get it back." Every time the guy headed to the door, Shelby would grab him, turn him around, "Let's go have a drink." And the Texan would go back to the bar again, and poor Shelby could hardly stand up. But that's what our town was. We knew our customers, and we never wanted to take more from a customer than what he could afford to lose. A customer, it was up to us to stop him. A gambler, when he's in heat, it's like a guy having sex on a railroad track and a train is coming. The only one that can stop is the engineer. He ain't going to stop. And that's what a gambler is. So we stop them. And the next morning, they'll come into my hotel. That night, they're calling me every name in the book because I won't give them any more credit. You're no good. You beat me out of this time. Let's go to bed. Next morning, they'll come in. They pick me up and give me a kiss. "Oh, thank you for stopping me. Thank you." And it was our obligation. And in those days, we always gave a customer get-home money. If he got Tap City and he needed money home, we'd give him walk-around money or money to get home. Our customer was our best asset. Today, outside of these humongous high rollers and a few casino hosts, the people on top don't know who their top customers are. And a lot of that personal service has disappeared because of size. but you can't stand in the way of progress. Progress is going to continue to go. I think a lot of you owe me a lot because I have increased the value of the chips by all the hotels that have blown up. And in closing, I'd like to say that, believe it or not, at the age of 82, I have been retained as a consultant to a new hotel, casino, condo project that's going to be built where the Klondike Hotel is. Maybe some of you saw it in the paper this morning. So if I live long enough, you may have a new casino chip coming in sometime by the end of the year 2009. Thank you so much for the opportunity of being here. Now, if there are any questions, by the way, if you sell that tape, I get a royalty. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, providing it's about somebody who is dead.
Let me get a couple volunteers and we can pass the mic around so we can hear the questions up here. Don't everybody step forward at once here.
Uh-oh.
You going over there?
Come on.
You know that TV
There's one
show
over here.
You know that TV show Vegas where they were always saying phone call for Mr. Burton Cohen, paging Mr. Burton Cohen. Did you get that many calls or was that just part of the script?
Well, when I was running in the Desert Inn, Aaron Spelling came to see me. He says, "Did you see the pilot of the show Vegas?" I said, "Yes, I did." He said, "What'd you think of it?" I said, "I thought it sucked." And he got up and he gave me a kiss on the cheek. He said, "If you'd like that show," he says, "we had missed our targeted market." We actually turned the Desert Inn into a movie production studio. Had the production studios there. Our staff was the security, the whole thing. Most of the shots were done at the Desert Inn. And as a joke, they put that voiceover on. And I never knew it was in there until one time I'm looking at a rerun of this thing, and I hear myself paged. And unfortunately, Aaron Spelling just passed away. He was a dear friend. Anything else?
Could you tell us a little bit of the background when a casino closes about the disposal of the chips?
I ain't going to tell you. You'll be down there selling them. Well, we were talking about that at the table. Claudine told me that on one of the casinos that they were pouring the foundation and they actually put the chips in the bottom of the hotel in the concrete. In later years, we burned the chips. We would send security out to have them burnt, and with a representative from the Gaming Control Board to certify that the checks had been destroyed. And basically, that's what happens. You can't get them unless you can dig. Anything else?
Just
Yes.
a follow-up to that Vegas question, because that was a popular show back in the late 70s. You were actually a TV personality because you were in a couple episodes. I'm sure you're aware of that. And I was just wondering what it was like. Now, was the production actually, because the casino ran 24 hours a day, did they actually film in the Desert Inn? It looks like it was a Desert Inn with the lights, or did
Absolutely.
they did?
Absolutely.
Because it looked
And it was
so
a
authentic.
great PR stunt for the Desert Inn. Security would rope off an area. We had people coming in to watch the shoot. And I still get big residual checks from some of them. I got one last month, was for $3.36. And it was a lot of fun. Ultimately, they brought some young actor in to try to emulate me, which was, he couldn't do it, Tony Curtis. And to this day, he keeps trying. Anything else? Yes.
You sort of jumped from practicing law in Miami to
Well, very simple. I was raised in the hotel business. Loved the hotel business. Represented as an attorney a lot of the major hotels, the Fontainebleau, the Eden Rock, and et cetera, in Florida. And I formed, together with a couple of clients, a airport hotel, international airport hotel systems to build hotels at airports. The one on top of the terminal in Miami, we built that. That was the first lease that ever had been brought about for air rights over an airport. We built the one in LA, we built one in Houston. We were working on the ones at Dulles, we got that concession, Orly in Paris. And I devoted a lot of not only some questionable talent, but a lot of my heart to that company. And took the company public, and we used the funds to buy land directly opposite the airport in LA. And we built the first high-rise soundproof hotel, the International in LA. And we brought in a manager to run that. We had him on property about 18 months before the hotel opened with a sales force. I had gone to Chicago, where the manager came from, to check his qualifications. Everybody raved about him. And I flew out for the opening. I said, now I envy you. Where are the customers? I look at the front desk. He has a bunch of girls in back of the front desk that make some of the cocktail waitresses today look like children. And I'm looking at this guy. He says, what's this? He says, well, we cater mostly to men. He says, and they'll like that when they sign in. I says, but a man has a wife, most of them. If he knows, the wife knows it's coming in here. Well, make a long story short, I literally threatened to kill this son of a bitch. He got so scared, he ran down to the Hyatt Hotel. I says, get out of this hotel. If you look back, I'm going to kill you. And what turned out, I went out there to take it over. As I say, I knew the hotel business. And clients were calling, when are you coming home? And I had to make a choice. As I say, so much of me was in that company. I decided to stay. And that led to an offer to come to Las Vegas to be in charge of building and supervising the hotel, the Frontier. I was so concerned. My career goal, believe it or not, was to be a federal judge. And I was so concerned about my reputation. My dearest friend, Alan Boyd, was in charge of the Civil Aeronautics Authority. So I flew into Washington, had dinner with Alan, and told him about the proposition that was given to me about coming here. My plan was to stay here for 5 years and go back to Florida and afford to practice law. I was a good lawyer, but I was a poor businessman for myself. I couldn't keep time charts. Clients would call me up and say, send us a bill, and I'd say, send me a check. It's just bad for myself, great for you. And Alan said, look, if you don't take that proposition, I will. Don't worry about your reputation. He says, those of us who know you know that nobody will ever get to you in a million years. And the rest of the people can go take a flying leap for themselves. So that brought me to Las Vegas for the first, quote, 5-year plan. Obviously, I went for 8 5-year plans. And I guess I'll be planted here. Anything else? Yes.
Desert Inn is certainly known for a following of real big-time gamblers. A lot of whales in that Desert Inn. Could you share with us one of your stories about one of your premium players there without even naming him? We don't want to.
Well, I'll give you one. Of course, he's dead. Otherwise, I wouldn't give it to you. There was a character around here by the name of Suitcase Murphy. Suitcase Murphy, he gambled at Caesars as well, was the heir of a very, very immensely wealthy trust. Suitcase would go to the crap table with a Spanish gourd wine thing, but it was loaded with Maalox. And if the dice started passing, Suitcase would take that gourd, and there's Maalox coming down all over him and everywhere else. And he liked to eat oatmeal through a straw. Now, you try to eat oatmeal through a straw. So we got the engineering department to take a copper pipe, polish it real good, and we put it in a velvet box and presented it to Suitcase so he could eat his oatmeal through a straw. Gospel truth. Suitcase kept that gold straw right here. He got mad at Jay Sarno. Suitcase went out and bought the land under Circus. He comes to me and he says, Bert, if that son of a bitch is a day late in paying the rent, I'm foreclosing and you're going to run that place because you're building it. Suitcase Murphy would go into the coffee shop of Caesar's Palace, lie down along the banquettes along there, and go to sleep. Wingy Grober, which was another character, we called him Wingy because he was born with a short arm. I'll never forget one day I'm walking down Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills, and one of the men's store has a suit with one arm like this for sale. It was a suit that Wingy had ordered and didn't like, and now they're trying to. So Wingy goes in and kicks Suitcase Murphy. He's, get up. We don't allow no goddamn bums to sleep in here. Murphy looks and sees who it is. Every time Suitcase Murphy came into town, Wingy Grober got on a plane and went to L.A. to go to the races because Suitcase was too valuable. And we had other characters. We had Ice Pick Willie, Sleep Out Louie, Russian Louie. The rumor is that Russian Louie is buried somewhere in the desert in golf course. I don't know whether that's true or not. But that's the one. There have been many others, but that's the one that sticks out the most. Anything else? Thank you. What?
You just answered it. Thank you. I was going to ask who your most memorable character was.
We've had some lot of them here. Thank you very much.